The September rain hammered against the cracked pavement of downtown Detroit, turning the alleyway behind the abandoned warehouse into a shallow river of grime and discarded dreams. Maya Richardson pressed her back against the cold brick wall, pulling her worn jacket tighter around her swollen belly. 8.5 months pregnant with nowhere to call home, she had learned to find shelter wherever the city offered it. Tonight, that meant a narrow overhang that barely kept the rain off her face. She was 26 years old, though the streets had aged her beyond her years. Her dark skin, once radiant, now carried the exhaustion of survival. Her hair, pulled back in a simple bun, was covered by a faded blue scarf she'd found weeks ago. Maya had been a nursing assistant before everything fell apart, before her boyfriend disappeared when she told him about the pregnancy, before her landlord evicted her for missing 2 months of rent, before the system she'd tried to navigate had failed her at every turn. The shelter 3 blocks away had a waiting list longer than her arm. The churches offered meals, but no beds. The temporary housing program had denied her application twice. So Maya made do with what she had: a backpack containing her few possessions, a blanket that smelled of mildew, and the fierce determination that her baby would have a better life than this. She rubbed her belly gently, feeling the baby kick. "Just a few more weeks, little one," she whispered. "Then we'll figure this out together." The sound of laughter cut through the rain. Maya peered around the corner to see a small boy, no more than 7 years old, running down the sidewalk. He wore an expensive-looking navy blue jacket and crisp jeans, completely out of place in this neighborhood. His skin was a warm brown, his curly hair bouncing as he ran. He was chasing a red ball that rolled ahead of him, oblivious to the gathering darkness and the danger that lurked in these streets after sunset. Behind him, about half a block back, a man in a dark suit struggled to keep up, shouting something Maya couldn't quite hear over the rain. Then she saw it. From the shadows of a condemned building emerged a massive pitbull, its muscular frame tense and its eyes fixed on the running child. The dog's coat was mottled with scars, its ears torn from what had likely been years of fighting. This wasn't someone's pet. This was a survivor of the underground dog fighting rings that plagued the city's forgotten corners, and it had spotted prey. The dog began to move, slowly at first, stalking the boy with the patience of a predator. The child stopped to pick up his ball, completely unaware of the danger closing in behind him. The man in the suit was still too far away, his dress shoes slipping on the wet pavement as he tried to run faster. Maya's heart seized. Every survival instinct she'd developed over the past 6 months screamed at her to stay hidden, to protect herself and her unborn child. Getting involved meant risk. It meant possible injury. It meant drawing attention to herself when invisibility had become her greatest asset. But as she watched the pit bull's muscles tense, preparing to lunge, she saw her own child in that little boy. She saw every vulnerable person who'd ever been left to face danger alone. She saw herself, abandoned and forgotten, and she refused to let another soul experience that same terror if she could prevent it. Maya didn't think, she acted. She grabbed the metal trash can lid lying near her feet, a shield of rusted steel that weighed at least 10 pounds. Ignoring the sharp pain that shot through her lower back, she ran toward the child, her worn sneakers splashing through puddles. The baby inside her seemed to understand the urgency, kicking hard against her ribs as if urging her forward. "Get back!" Maya screamed at the boy, her voice cutting through the rain like a siren. The child turned, his eyes widening in confusion and fear. But he froze, unable to process the danger or the strange woman running toward him. The pit bull launched itself forward, a blur of muscle and rage. Its jaws opened wide, revealing yellowed teeth that had tasted blood before. The dog was 3 feet from the boy when Maya threw herself between them, raising the trash can lid just as the animal struck. The impact nearly knocked her off her feet. The pit bull's jaws clamped down on the metal with a sickening crunch, its full weight slamming against her makeshift shield. Maya braced her legs, feeling her pregnant belly contract painfully as her muscles strained against the force. The dog shook its head violently, trying to rip the lid from her hands, but Maya held firm, her fingers white-knuckled around the edges. "Run!" she shouted at the boy, who remained frozen in shock. "Run to that man! Go!" The child's paralysis broke. He turned and sprinted toward the man in the suit, who was now only yards away. His face twisted in horror at what he was witnessing. The pitbull released the lid and circled, looking for an opening. Its eyes were wild, bloodshot with rage or pain, or both. Maya kept the shield between herself and the animal, rotating as it moved, her breathing ragged. Another contraction gripped her abdomen, stronger this time, and she nearly doubled over. But she couldn't show weakness. Not now. The dog feinted left, then lunged right, going low. Maya barely managed to drop the lid in time, catching the animal's snapping jaws inches from her leg. The force of the block sent her stumbling backward, and she fell hard onto the wet pavement, the impact jarring her spine. The baby kicked frantically inside her, as if trying to escape the chaos. For a terrible moment, Maya lay there, the lid still clutched in her hands, but her body vulnerable. The pitbull saw its chance and leaped onto her, its weight crushing against her chest and shield. She could smell its rancid breath, see the scars crisscrossing its muzzle, feel the heat of its rage. The animal was a victim too, she realized in that split second, broken by human cruelty and transformed into a weapon. But understanding didn't stop the fight for survival. Maya shoved upward with every ounce of strength she had left, throwing the dog off balance. It tumbled to the side and she scrambled to her feet, placing the lid between them once more. Her legs shook, her vision blurred at the edges, but she stood her ground. "Hey, get away from her!" The man in the suit had reached them, holding the terrified boy behind him. He waved his arms and shouted, trying to draw the dog's attention. The pit bull turned toward the new threat, growling deep in its throat. For a moment, all four of them, woman, man, child, and beast, stood in the rain, frozen in a tableau of violence and protection. Then sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. The sound seemed to trigger something in the dog. It turned and bolted back into the shadows of the condemned building, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. Maya dropped the trash can lid. It clattered against the pavement, the sound impossibly loud in the sudden absence of danger. Her hands were shaking so violently she couldn't stop them. Another contraction rippled through her belly, and this time she did double over, gasping for breath. The man rushed forward, still holding the boy's hand. "Are you all right? Oh my God, are you hurt? We need to get you to a hospital." Maya tried to wave him off, but her legs gave out. She sank to her knees on the wet pavement, one hand on her belly, the other pressed against the ground to keep herself from collapsing completely. The adrenaline was draining from her system, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion and pain that radiated from her lower back through her entire body. I'm okay," she managed to say, though she clearly wasn't. Is he safe?" "Thanks to you," the man said, his voice thick with emotion. He was in his mid-40s, Maya guessed, with dark skin and silver threading through his close-cropped hair. His suit was expensive, she could tell even through the rain, and his watch probably cost more than she'd made in a year back when she had a job. "Ethan, are you hurt anywhere?" The boy shook his head, but he was crying now, the shock finally breaking through. He clutched his father's leg, his small body trembling. "You saved my son's life," the man continued, crouching down to Maya's level. Up close, she could see the tears mixing with rain on his face. "You put yourself in danger, you're pregnant, and you—" His voice broke. "How can I ever thank you?" Maya shook her head, trying to stand but failing. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," the man said firmly. "They wouldn't have. Most people would have run the other way. He looked at her worn clothes, her wet hair, the backpack lying in a puddle nearby, and seemed to understand her situation. "Let me help you. Please, let me get you to a hospital, get you somewhere safe." "I don't need charity," Maya said, the words automatic after months of defending her dignity against well-meaning strangers who saw her situation as an opportunity for their own sense of goodness. "This isn't charity. This is gratitude. This is—" The man paused, searching for words. "This is the least I can do for the woman who saved my son's life." Before Maya could respond, another contraction hit, stronger than the previous ones. She cried out, unable to suppress the pain this time. Her water hadn't broken, but something was wrong. The fall, the stress, the physical exertion, it had all been too much. "We're taking you to the hospital now," the man said, his voice leaving no room for argument. He pulled out his phone with one hand while supporting Maya with the other. "This is Marcus Lawson. I need an ambulance at the corner of West Grand Boulevard and Rosa Parks Boulevard immediately. We have a pregnant woman in distress who just fought off a dog attack." "Yes, I'll stay on the line." Marcus Lawson. Even through her pain, Maya recognized the name. Everyone in Detroit knew Marcus Lawson. He was the founder and CEO of Lawson Tech Solutions, a company that had transformed from a small startup into a billion-dollar empire. He owned half the new developments in downtown Detroit. He was on the news regularly, talking about urban renewal and economic development. And his son was the little boy currently hiding behind his father's legs, looking at Maya with a mixture of awe and fear. "I can't afford," Maya started to say, but Marcus cut her off. "You're not paying for anything. Do you understand me? Nothing. Medical care, food, housing, whatever you need, it's covered. You saved Ethan, you saved my whole world. That debt can never be fully repaid, but I'm going to try." The sirens were closer now. Maya's head felt light, disconnected from her body. She wanted to argue, to maintain her independence, to refuse help from this wealthy stranger who represented everything she'd lost access to. But the baby kicked again, and she thought about the cold nights ahead, the uncertain future, the very real possibility that she might give birth on the street. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." Marcus smiled, relief flooding his features. He kept his hand on her shoulder, steady and warm. "What's your name?" "Maya. Maya Richardson." "Maya Richardson," Marcus repeated, as if committing it to memory. "Today you became a hero, and I promise you, your life is about to change." The ambulance arrived, its red lights painting the wet street in urgent crimson. Paramedics rushed toward them with a stretcher and equipment. As they began checking Maya's vital signs and asking questions, she caught sight of little Ethan watching her with wide, serious eyes. The boy pulled away from his father and approached Maya despite the paramedics working around her. "Thank you for saving me," he said in a small voice. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small toy car, blue and slightly worn. "This is my favorite. You can have it." Maya's eyes filled with tears. She took the toy car with shaking hands. "Thank you, Ethan. I'll keep it safe." As the paramedics lifted her onto the stretcher, Maya clutched the toy car and looked up at the rain-dark sky. For the first time in months, she felt something other than despair. She felt hope. Not because of the promise of help from a wealthy man, but because she'd remembered who she was beneath the survival and the struggle. She was someone who acted when others needed her. She was someone who sacrificed for others. She was someone worthy of love and protection. The baby kicked, gentler this time, as if in agreement. The hospital room was the cleanest place Maya had been in 7 months. White sheets that actually smelled like detergent. A window with blinds that worked. A bathroom she didn't have to share with 30 other people. The doctors had examined her thoroughly, declared both her and the baby stable despite the ordeal, and prescribed bed rest for at least 48 hours to ensure no complications from the stress and physical trauma. Marcus Lawson had paid for everything up front, including a private room that Maya knew must cost hundreds of dollars per night. He'd also sent clothes, soft maternity wear in her size, though she had no idea how he'd guessed correctly, and food that actually tasted like something other than institutional cafeteria bulk cooking. When the nurse brought in a dinner tray with grilled salmon, roasted vegetables, and fresh fruit, Maya had nearly cried. But Marcus himself hadn't returned since that first night, when he'd ridden in the ambulance with her and stayed until the doctors confirmed she was stable. Maya told herself she wasn't disappointed. The man had a company to run, a son to care for, a life that didn't include checking on homeless women he'd encountered during traumatic circumstances. He'd done his duty by paying her medical bills. She couldn't expect more than that. On the second morning, a social worker named Patricia Williams came to visit. She was a black woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that Maya immediately appreciated. Patricia sat in the visitor's chair and pulled out a folder thick with paperwork. "So Maya, let's talk about your situation," Patricia began. "Mr. Lawson has made it clear that he wants to ensure you have support, but I need to understand what you actually need versus what he thinks you need. Two different things, usually." Maya appreciated the directness. "I need a place to stay. I need a job. I need to be able to take care of my baby when she's born." "She?" Patricia smiled. "You know it's a girl." "I do now. They told me yesterday during the ultrasound." Maya placed a hand on her belly. "Her name is going to be Hope." Patricia nodded, writing something down. "That's beautiful. Okay, housing first. The shelter system has a waiting list, as I'm sure you know. But there are some transitional housing programs specifically for pregnant women and new mothers. The challenge is that most have requirements: sobriety, job training participation, curfews. Are you comfortable with structured programs?" "I'll do whatever it takes," Maya said. "I've been sober my whole life. I'm good with structure. I just need a chance." They talked for over an hour, filling out applications and discussing options. Patricia explained that Maya's nursing assistant certification was still valid, which meant she could potentially find work once the baby was born, and she'd recovered from delivery. There were childcare assistance programs, though the waiting lists were long. There were food benefits she qualified for. The path forward wasn't easy, but at least now it was visible. As Patricia was packing up her folder, there was a knock on the door. Marcus Lawson entered, wearing a different expensive suit than before. This one charcoal grey with a subtle pinstripe, and carrying a laptop bag. Little Ethan peeked around his father's legs, still shy but curious. "I hope I'm not interrupting," Marcus said. Patricia stood and extended her hand. "Mr. Lawson, I'm Patricia Williams, the social worker assigned to Maya's case. We were just finishing up." "Good, good. Have you been able to identify some resources for her?" Marcus asked. "We have several applications in process," Patricia confirmed. "But I'll be honest with you, Mr. Lawson, the system moves slowly. Even with the best-case scenario, Maya's looking at several weeks before housing comes through, and that's assuming everything goes perfectly. She'll be discharged tomorrow, and after that—" She trailed off, the implication clear. Marcus frowned. "That's not acceptable. She can't go back to the streets, especially not this close to giving birth." "I agree, but unless you know of some magical housing that materializes overnight, we're working within the constraints of reality." Patricia's tone was respectful, but firm. She'd clearly dealt with wealthy benefactors before who thought money could instantly solve systemic problems. "What if I provided temporary housing?" Marcus asked. "I own a residential property in Midtown. It's a renovated apartment building, mostly corporate housing for executives who relocate to Detroit temporarily. There are several vacant units right now. Maya could stay in one of them until the permanent housing comes through." Patricia looked skeptical. "Mr. Lawson, while I appreciate the generosity, I have to consider the power dynamics here. Maya saved your son's life. You're a billionaire offering housing to a homeless woman. There's an inherent imbalance that could lead to complications." "What kind of complications?" Maya asked, speaking up for the first time since Marcus had arrived. Patricia turned to her. "Honey, I've seen situations where gratitude turns into obligation, where free housing comes with unspoken expectations. I'm not saying Mr. Lawson has bad intentions. I'm saying the situation itself creates vulnerability." Maya felt her face flush with anger. "You think I can't handle myself? You think I'm so desperate I'd let someone take advantage of me?" "That's not what I'm saying." "Yes, it is." Maya cut her off. "You're treating me like I'm helpless. Like I don't have agency just because I don't have a home. I made a choice to help that little boy. Mr. Lawson is making a choice to help me. I'm capable of accepting help without losing myself in the process." The room fell silent. Ethan tugged on his father's sleeve, uncomfortable with the tension. Marcus picked him up, settling the boy on his hip. "Patricia, I understand your concerns," Marcus said carefully. "But I'm offering a lease agreement, properly documented, with rent covered for 3 months. After that, we can reassess based on Maya's situation. She'll have her own space, her own keys, no obligations beyond taking care of herself and her baby. If she needs to leave before the 3 months are up, she can, no questions asked. Patricia looked at Maya. Is this what you want? Maya thought about the alternative. Another night in the shelter if she was lucky enough to get a bed. Another week or month on the streets if she wasn't. Giving birth, not knowing where she'd take her baby afterward. She thought about hope, growing inside her, deserving better than uncertainty. Yes, Maya said. I want to accept the offer. Patricia sighed but nodded. All right, but I'm going to check in with you weekly, Maya. And if anything feels wrong, you tell me immediately. Understood? Understood. After Patricia left, Marcus set Ethan down and pulled out his laptop. I need to get back to the office for a meeting, but I wanted to discuss a few things first. The apartment will be ready by tomorrow afternoon. It's furnished. Nothing fancy, but comfortable. There's a grocery store 2 blocks away, a clinic 3 blocks away, and public transportation right outside if you need it. I don't know how to thank you, Maya said, the words feeling inadequate. Marcus looked up from his laptop, his expression serious. Maya, you threw yourself in front of a violent animal to protect my son. You risked your life and your baby's life for a child you'd never met. I'm not doing this because I'm generous. I'm doing this because I can't stand the thought of you suffering when I have the means to help. Does that make sense? Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. There's one more thing, Marcus continued, and I want you to think about it before answering. Lawson Tech Solutions has a program for single mothers returning to the workforce. It's a 6-month paid training position that includes childcare support and job placement afterward. You'd be learning administrative skills, basic coding, project management, skills that transfer to almost any industry. The pay is $35 an hour during training. Maya's breath caught. $35 an hour was more than she'd made as a nursing assistant. With hours, that could mean over $2,000 a month, maybe more. That was rent money, food money, diaper money, security money. Why would you hire me? She asked. I don't have any of those skills you mentioned. Because you're smart enough to learn them, and you've proven you have the courage and integrity I want in my employees, Marcus replied. But I need to be clear, this isn't charity disguised as employment. If you accept the position, you'll work hard. You'll have deadlines and expectations and performance reviews like everyone else. You'll succeed or fail based on your own merit. The only advantage you're getting is the opportunity. What you do with it is up to you. Maya's mind raced. It was too much, too fast. 3 days ago, she'd been sleeping under an overpass. Now she was being offered an apartment and a job that could change her entire trajectory. Part of her wanted to refuse out of pride, to prove she could do it on her own. But the baby kicked, reminding her that pride was a luxury she couldn't afford. I need to think about the job, Maya said finally, but I'm grateful for the offer. Marcus smiled. That's fair. You know where to find me when you decide. Ethan, who'd been playing quietly with a toy truck in the corner, suddenly walked over to Maya's bedside. Did you keep my car? He asked. Maya reached for the small blue toy car on her bedside table. Right here. Safe and sound. Ethan beamed. Good. Daddy says you're a hero. Are you really a hero? Maya felt tears prick her eyes. I'm just someone who did what needed to be done, just like your daddy is doing now by helping me. When you have your baby, can I meet her? Ethan asked. I've never met a baby before. Marcus put a hand on his son's shoulder. Ethan, that's up to Miss Maya. She might want privacy. I'd like that, Maya interrupted. When Hope is born, you can meet her, if your dad says it's okay. Ethan looked up at Marcus with pleading eyes. Marcus laughed and nodded. All right, we'll visit when the time comes. After they left, Maya sat in the quiet hospital room, staring out the window at the Detroit skyline. The city looked different from up here, less harsh, more full of possibility. She thought about the past 7 months, about how quickly a life could fall apart, and how unexpectedly it might be pieced back together. She thought about the person she'd been before homelessness, confident and capable, and the person she'd become on the streets, hardened and vigilant. Now she had a chance to become someone new, someone who carried both experiences and used them to build something stronger. The next day, Maya was discharged with a bag full of prenatal vitamins, follow-up appointment cards, and instructions to avoid stress. A car service Marcus had arranged picked her up and drove her to Midtown, to a beautiful brick building that had clearly been renovated recently. The apartment was on the 3rd floor, a one-bedroom with hardwood floors, a full kitchen, and windows that let in afternoon sunlight. Maya walked through the space slowly, touching the furniture, opening cabinets, testing the shower. Everything worked. Everything was clean. There was even a small nursery area set up in the bedroom with a crib, changing table, and rocking chair. A note on the crib read, "For Hope, welcome home, ML." That night, Maya slept in a real bed for the first time in 7 months. She cried herself to sleep. But they were tears of relief and gratitude rather than despair. Hope kicked contentedly, as if she too understood that things had shifted, that safety had been found in an unexpected place. The following weeks passed in a blur of doctor's appointments, housing paperwork, and quiet nesting. Maya decorated the nursery with inexpensive items from the dollar store, colorful mobiles and soft blankets that made the space feel loved. She took walks around the neighborhood, reacquainting herself with what it felt like to move through the world without fear of harassment or violence. She attended a support group for mothers-to-be at the community center, where she met other women navigating pregnancy under difficult circumstances. And she thought about Marcus's job offer. Every night she weighed the pros and cons, examined her pride and her pragmatism, considered what accepting would mean versus what refusing would prove. Finally, 3 weeks after moving into the apartment, she called the number he'd given her. "Lawson Tech Solutions, how may I direct your call? I'd like to speak with Marcus Lawson, please. This is Maya Richardson calling." There was a pause. "One moment, please." Less than a minute later, Marcus's voice came on the line. "Maya, how are you? Is everything all right with the apartment?" "Everything's perfect. I'm calling about the job offer. If it's still available, I'd like to accept." She could hear the smile in his voice. "It's absolutely still available." "When can you start?" "After Hope is born and I've recovered. Maybe 2 months." "That works. I'll have HR send over the paperwork. Maya, I'm really glad you called. I think you're going to do great things here." After hanging up, Maya sat in the rocking chair and looked around the nursery. She thought about all the ways life could surprise you, how tragedy and grace could coexist, how one moment of courage could ripple outward in ways you never anticipated. She thought about Patricia's warnings and understood them better now. Accepting help wasn't weakness, but navigating it required strength and clear boundaries. She would take what was offered, use it to build stability, and then pay it forward when she could. The baby shifted inside her, and Maya placed both hands on her belly. "We're going to be okay, Hope," she whispered. "I promise you, we're going to be better than okay." If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. There are so many untold stories of courage, survival, and unexpected kindness in this world, and I'm here to share them with you every week. Don't miss the next one. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed a stranger help someone in a desperate moment? Or have you been on either side of that equation? Drop your story in the comments. Sometimes we need to be reminded that humanity still exists in the small acts of bravery we show each other. Block 3, 3,500 words. Hope Alia Richardson was born on a cold October morning, weighing 6 pounds and 11 ounces, with a full head of dark hair and lungs that announced her arrival to the entire maternity ward. Maya held her daughter for the first time and understood, with a clarity that took her breath away, that every struggle had led to this moment. Every night on the streets, every rejection, every moment of despair had been survived so that this tiny person could exist. Marcus and Ethan visited the hospital that afternoon, bearing gifts, a stuffed elephant, baby clothes in soft pastels, and a card that Ethan had decorated with crayon drawings of stick figures he explained were the hero lady and her baby. Marcus held Hope with the practiced ease of a father, and Maya saw tears in his eyes as he looked down at the sleeping infant. "She's beautiful, Maya," he said softly. "Absolutely perfect." Ethan stood on tiptoe, trying to see. "She's so small. Is she going to get bigger?" Everyone laughed and the sound filled the room with warmth. Marcus carefully transferred Hope to Maya's arms, and she watched as he crouched down to Ethan's level. "Remember what we talked about, son? About how Miss Maya was brave and helped you when you needed it most?" Ethan nodded solemnly. "Well, now it's our turn to make sure she and Hope have everything they need. That's what good people do. They help each other. Not because they expect something back, but because it's the right thing to do." Maya listened to this exchange and felt something shift inside her. For months, she'd seen her homelessness as a personal failure, a source of shame she carried privately. But Marcus was teaching his son that needing help wasn't weakness. It was simply part of the human experience. And offering help wasn't charity, it was community. The first month with Hope was harder than Maya had anticipated. The baby had colic, crying for hours every evening no matter what Maya tried. Sleep became a distant memory. Her body ached from the delivery, and the isolation of new motherhood pressed down on her like a weight. There were moments, usually around 3 in the morning while pacing the apartment with a screaming infant, when Maya wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake accepting Marcus's help. What if she couldn't handle the job training? What if she failed and disappointed everyone who'd invested in her? But every morning, she woke up in that safe apartment, fed her daughter with formula Marcus's assistant had delivered, along with diapers and other supplies, and reminded herself that doubt was natural but didn't have to be decisive. She'd survived homelessness while pregnant. She could survive learning new skills while mothering. When Hope was 6 weeks old, Maya started the training program at Lawson Tech Solutions. The company provided on-site childcare, which meant she could focus during work hours while knowing Hope was just 2 floors away. The other trainees were a mix of backgrounds, some fresh out of college, others returning to work after years away, and a few who, like Maya, were rebuilding after difficult circumstances. Her supervisor was a woman named Jennifer Chen, a senior project manager in her early 30s, who had a reputation for being demanding but fair. On Maya's first day, Jennifer sat her down in a glass-walled conference room overlooking downtown Detroit. "I'm going to be straight with you," Jennifer began. "Marcus told me about how you met, about what you did for Ethan. That's remarkable. But in this office, that story doesn't earn you special treatment. You're here because Marcus believes you have potential, but potential means nothing without execution. I need to know you're ready to work harder than you've ever worked before." Maya met her gaze steadily. "I slept on the streets for 7 months while pregnant. I fought off a pitbull to save a child I didn't know. I gave birth and I'm raising a baby alone. Hard work doesn't scare me. Not meeting expectations terrifies me, so I won't let it happen." Jennifer smiled. "Good answer. Let's get started." The training was intense. Maya learned project management software, basic database administration, client communication protocols, and the fundamentals of agile methodology. She studied at night after Hope went to sleep, watching tutorial videos and practicing coding exercises until her eyes burned with exhaustion. Some days she felt like she was drowning, the technical language washing over her in an incomprehensible wave. But she refused to quit. 3 months into the program, Jennifer assigned Maya to assist with a real client project, a mid-sized manufacturing company that needed help organizing their inventory management system. It was a straightforward task, mostly data entry and verification, but it was Maya's first chance to prove herself on actual billable work. She threw herself into it, double-checking every entry, catching errors that the client's own staff had missed, and creating a streamlined process that saved hours of redundant work. When she presented her findings to Jennifer, her supervisor looked genuinely impressed. "This is excellent work, Maya. The client specifically mentioned your attention to detail in their feedback. How would you feel about taking the lead on the next phase of this project?" Maya felt a surge of pride so intense it nearly brought her to tears. "I'd love that opportunity." "You've earned it." That evening, Maya called her mother for the first time in over a year. The relationship had been strained before Maya's homelessness. Her mother disapproved of the boyfriend who'd gotten her pregnant and abandoned her, had lectured her about making better choices, had offered conditional support that felt more like judgment. They'd stopped speaking after a particularly painful argument, and Maya's pride had kept her from reaching out even when things got desperate. Now, with Hope sleeping peacefully in her crib and a successful day at work behind her, Maya felt ready to rebuild that bridge. "Mama, it's me. It's Maya." There was a long pause, then her mother's voice, thick with emotion. "Baby girl, I've been so worried. Where are you? Are you safe?" They talked for 2 hours. Maya explained everything: the homelessness, the rescue, Marcus's help, the job, Hope's birth. Her mother cried, apologized for not being there, begged to meet her granddaughter. They made plans for a visit the following weekend, and when Maya hung up, she felt lighter, as if a weight she hadn't fully acknowledged had been lifted. But not everything was smooth. About 4 months into Maya's employment, whispers started circulating through the office. She'd catch co-workers glancing at her and quickly looking away. Conversations would stop when she entered the break room. Finally, one of the other trainees, a young man named David, pulled her aside. "Maya, I don't know if anyone's told you, but there's talk. Some people are saying you only got this position because of what happened with Marcus's son, that you're not really qualified, and you're taking a spot from someone who deserves it more." Maya felt her stomach drop. "Who's saying that?" David looked uncomfortable. "It's mostly coming from Cynthia in HR and a few of the senior staff. I don't think they mean it maliciously. They just don't understand your background. They see favoritism instead of opportunity." That night, Maya barely slept. She'd worked so hard, proven herself repeatedly, but apparently it wasn't enough. She was still the homeless woman Marcus felt sorry for, rather than Maya Richardson, competent employee. The unfairness of it burned in her chest. The next morning, she requested a meeting with Marcus. His assistant tried to schedule it for the following week, but Maya insisted it was urgent. An hour later, she sat in his top-floor office with its panoramic views of the city she'd once survived on the streets of. "What can I do for you, Maya?" Marcus asked, gesturing for her to sit. Maya remained standing. "I need to know something, and I need you to be completely honest. Did you give me this job because you felt obligated or because you actually thought I could do it?" Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying her. "What brought this on?" "People are talking. They think I'm here because of Ethan, not because I belong here, and I need to know if they're right. Sit down, Maya." She sat, but kept her spine straight, her shoulders back. Marcus chose his words carefully. "When I offered you this position, it was because I saw qualities in you that this company needs: courage, resourcefulness, the ability to make critical decisions under pressure. Yes, I met you because of what happened with Ethan, but I hired you because of who you are. The question is, do you believe you belong here?" "I want to," Maya admitted, "but sometimes I feel like I'm playing catch-up, like everyone else has a head start I can never overcome." Everyone feels that way sometimes, especially when they're new. But let me ask you this: how's your work been? Not how you feel about it, but what are the actual results? Maya thought about it. "Jennifer says I'm exceeding expectations. The clients I've worked with have given positive feedback. I haven't missed a deadline or made any major errors." "Then the work speaks for itself. The people who are questioning your presence here aren't questioning your performance. They're revealing their own biases and insecurities. You can't control what they think, but you can control whether you let it derail you." Marcus stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city. "When I started this company, people said I'd fail. Black man with big ideas and no connections. They gave me 6 months before I went bankrupt. I spent years proving them wrong, and you know what I learned? Some people will never give you credit no matter what you achieve. So you stop seeking their approval and start building something so undeniable they have to acknowledge it, even if they don't want to." Maya absorbed this, feeling her resolve strengthen. "What should I do about the rumors?" "Nothing. Keep doing excellent work. Let your results be your response, and if anyone questions you directly, tell them to review your performance evaluations and client feedback. Numbers don't lie." She returned to work with renewed determination. Instead of avoiding the break room, she participated in conversations. Instead of staying quiet in meetings, she contributed ideas. When Cynthia from HR made a passive-aggressive comment about certain people getting opportunities they didn't earn, Maya smiled politely and said, "If you'd like to review my performance metrics, I'm happy to share them. I'm proud of the work I've been doing." Cynthia didn't bring it up again. 6 months after starting at Lawson Tech Solutions, Maya completed the training program with the highest evaluation scores in her cohort. She was offered a full-time position as a junior project manager with a salary of $62,000 a year, plus benefits. It was more money than she'd ever imagined making, enough to move into her own apartment without Marcus's support, enough to start saving for Hope's future. But before accepting, she went to Marcus's office one last time. "I want to take the position," she told him, "but I also want to start paying rent on the apartment, market rate. I can afford it now and I need to stand on my own." Marcus smiled. "I respect that, but I have a counteroffer. Instead of paying me rent, put that money into a savings account for Hope's education. When she's ready for college, she'll have options. That's more important than proving something to me that's already been proven." Maya felt tears well up. "You've done so much for us. How do I ever—" "You already have," Marcus interrupted. "You saved my son. You've worked hard and proven everyone wrong who doubted you. You've shown Ethan what real courage looks like. That's more than enough." On Hope's first birthday, Maya hosted a small party in the apartment. Her mother came, along with a few friends from work, Patricia the social worker, Jennifer, and of course Marcus and Ethan. The apartment was decorated with balloons and streamers, and a homemade cake sat on the kitchen counter. Hope, dressed in a tiny purple dress, smashed her face into her birthday cake while everyone laughed and took pictures. Later, after most of the guests had left, Marcus pulled Maya aside. "I have something for you," he said, handing her an envelope. Inside was a deed. Maya's hand shook as she read it. "You're giving me the apartment. It's yours, free and clear. You've more than earned it, and Hope deserves to grow up somewhere stable, somewhere that's actually home." Maya couldn't speak. She simply hugged him, this man who'd been a stranger a year ago and was now something like family. "Thank you," she finally whispered, "for everything, for seeing me when I was invisible." "You were never invisible, Maya. You just needed someone to look." 5 years later, Maya stood in front of a group of women at a shelter across town, the same shelter where she'd once been waitlisted. She was there as a guest speaker, invited to share her story as part of a program helping homeless individuals transition to stability. "I won't lie to you," she told the audience. "The road from where you are to where you want to be is hard. There will be days when you want to give up, days when it seems like the world is designed to keep you down. But I'm standing here to tell you that one act of courage can change everything. One person seeing your worth can open doors you didn't know existed. And most importantly, you have value that exists independent of your circumstances. You are not defined by your worst moments or your current struggles." After the talk, a young woman approached her, barely 20, visibly pregnant, eyes full of the same desperation Maya remembered so well. "Do you really believe what you said? About things getting better?" Maya thought about the journey, the pitbull attack, the terror and pain, the slowly building trust, the hard work, the setbacks and triumphs. She thought about Hope, now 6 years old and thriving in first grade. She thought about her career, her home, her rebuilt relationship with her mother. She thought about Marcus and Ethan, who still visited regularly, who'd become part of her chosen family. "Yes," Maya said firmly. "I believe it because I lived it, and you can too." She handed the young woman her business card. "Call me. Let me help you navigate the system. You don't have to do this alone." As Maya drove home that evening, past the streets where she'd once slept, she reflected on how profoundly life could transform. She'd learned that heroism wasn't about grand gestures. It was about showing up for yourself and others, even when everything felt impossible. She'd learned that accepting help with grace was its own kind of strength, and she'd learned that the most powerful thing she could do with her second chance was to extend that same possibility to others. Hope was waiting at home with Maya's mother, who now babysat twice a week. Maya scooped her daughter into her arms, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, feeling the solid weight of her, this miracle born from struggle. "Mama, guess what we learned today?" Hope exclaimed, launching into an enthusiastic explanation of her science lesson. Maya listened, fully present, grateful beyond words. She'd been broken down to nothing and rebuilt from fragments of kindness and her own stubborn determination. She'd discovered that sometimes the worst moments contained seeds of the best ones, that courage was often just fear that moved forward anyway, and that we're all one act of compassion away from changing someone's entire world. That night, after Hope was asleep, Maya stood at her window looking out at Detroit's glittering skyline. She thought about the young woman at the shelter, about all the people still fighting battles most would never see. And she made a promise to herself. She would never forget where she came from, and she would spend the rest of her life being for others what Marcus had been for her. Someone who looked beyond circumstances to see potential, who offered help without conditions, who believed in second chances. Because everyone deserves to be saved, and everyone deserves the chance to become their own hero. I hope this story touched your heart the way it touched mine. If you're not already subscribed to this channel, I'd be honored if you'd join our community. Every week we share stories that remind us of our shared humanity, the struggles we face, the courage we find, and the unexpected ways we save each other. Now I want to hear from you. What did this story teach you? Have you ever been in a position where one person's kindness completely altered your path? Or maybe you've been that person for someone else. Share your story in the comments below. Let's build a space where we celebrate the quiet heroes walking among us and remind each other that compassion is never wasted. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for believing, as I do, that our stories matter.